Welcome to Culture and Christianity. We're told heroes are out of style. I don't believe that. I think we need a generation of heroes, and I'm not willing to accept what Hollywood is generating. I don't think real heroes wear spandex and have superhuman characteristics. We don't need cartoon characters. We need real people. Well, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin is an American hero. He served our nation for decades, a founding member of Delta Force. He led Delta Force, a man with real faith. He has a message that's important for men and for young men. Veterans Day is this weekend. We have heroes amongst us. We need to recognize it, celebrate them, and be grateful for the sacrifices they have made so you and I know liberty and freedom. I believe you'll enjoy General Boykin. We're going to talk a bit about your career and what you've done, but I think the foundation for that, you came from a family of real faith. I know your mother was a godly, praying woman.
My mother was the granddaughter of the people who established the Pentecostal Holiness Church. So I came from a long line of people of faith, and my mother was a saint. And she was an intercessor. And I would say to you that intercessors are the best warriors in God's kingdom because they put it all on the line. But yes, and she raised me up to honor the Lord, but also to honor Israel. And she made it very clear to me as I was growing up that they are God's chosen people, and we must stand with them or we will pay a price. So that's why I'm so disturbed about what I see with this anti-Semitism.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've heard you share a variety of ways that she would pray and intercede for you at different points when you were qualifying for Delta and some of those places. So some of you who think all you can do is pray, that's a misunderstanding. In most cases, the most valuable thing we can do is pray.
Yes.
But am I right? When you were doing that crazy?
When I got a call asking me to come and try out for this new unit, which turned out to be the Delta Force. And they said, and we need your answer in 1 hour. So I did what every Christian man does when he's confronted with a dilemma, and I called my mother. And I told her I said, I don't know if this is where the Lord wants me or not, but they tell me this is going to be the toughest thing I've ever done. And they tell me, you better be in the best physical condition you've ever been in. And I said, Mom, you need to be praying for me. And she said, I'm going to pray for you right now. And she started praying. And I mean, when my mother prayed, she shook the gates of heaven. I'm telling you. And I got family right here, and they will tell you the same thing. But 36 and a half years I was in the Army. Every day that I was in the Army, my mother prayed for me. And she prayed Psalm 91 over me every day.
If I remember correctly, that Delta trial, there was another component of that. You had to make some crazy hike. And then there was a psychologist that had an opinion about your fitness.
Yeah.
It may not be the most God-honoring part of the morning, but it's memorable.
Well, the trial was a 30-day trial up in the mountains of North Carolina and going long distances, carrying heavy loads. And the last day we went 40 miles. And we started with 118 people and we finished with 19. And the last day was 40 miles through the mountains with a big heavy rucksack on, snowing. And I came in first. And I had been, trust me when I tell you, I couldn't do that. I could not do that on my own. I was praying and asking the Lord to give me what I needed. If it was His will that I should be part of this, give me what I need and help me through this. And that's exactly what He did. He gave me what I needed. But they brought us back to Fort Bragg out of those mountains, and a psychologist came in and gave us all a battery of tests and everything. And this one psychologist took us all into a room, and each one of us individually, he would he would talk to us. And well, when he brought me in, I sat down and he said, he was very unpleasant, let me just say that. And he said, Captain Boykin, I'm going to recommend against you being part of this Delta force. And I said, why? And he said, because you rely too much on your faith and you just won't fit in here. And I thought, and you rely on your nose to breathe, and I think I'm going to break it for you. Now, Pastor, I'm more sanctified now, okay? I'm more sanctified. But in spite of all that, they took me. They took me in spite of that, because I've been very open about my faith. I didn't feel like I was compelled to hide my faith, particularly when I was asking the Lord to help me to get through this if that's where he wanted me to be. But sometimes when we compromise on our faith, when we say we're a Christian and we compromise and people see us compromising, you don't realize the damage that we do. We can repent and be forgiven for it, but how about those people that see us compromising? We cannot do that. We can't do it. But there are so many Christians that are doing exactly the same thing. And so we're all sinners. That's not the point. We're all sinners, but we can't compromise our faith. And because the people that are hurt the most are the people that see us do that.
I think that's such an important point, because it's become fashionable to diminish your faith, to turn it up more brightly in some settings and to turn it down in other settings. And the marriage covenant you have, if you had that attitude towards your marriage, that in some settings I can be less married, and in some settings I'm more married, we would all understand that your character was broken. Well, the covenant you have with God is more significant than your marriage covenant. And I'm not diminishing marriage. I'm telling you, we have bought into something that is fundamentally deceptive and wrong and from the pit of hell. We're either Christ followers 24/7, wherever we go, or you're not one. And the Lord blessed you in spite of that. You ended up, you not only were one of the founding participants in Delta, eventually you led Delta. Is that right?
I did. When I reached the rank of colonel, I became the unit commander, and I commanded Delta Force for a little over 2 years.
Did you get to reassign that psychologist?
I got to tell you, that psychologist, I'm sure he's read my book or seen me somewhere talking about this, and he does not show up at the reunions or anything. He's not there.
When you retired from the military, you accepted an assignment with the Family Research Council. In fact, you're the executive vice president.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that does, what that organization does?
Yeah. Family Research Council was actually created by Dr. Dobson about 45 years ago. And he wanted an organization in Washington that could lobby Congress for public policy that supported faith, family, and freedom. Now, we've expanded well beyond that now, but we have a network of pastors in the country that when something is happening in a certain area, we can rally these pastors to get involved and get engaged in what's going on. And we do media that covers the entire United States to try and get things out to the public that are important to us as Christians, that are important to everybody. And one of the things, as I said last night, that we're working right now is to try to get rid of these abortifacients, which are the pills that are used for abortion. And 62% of the abortions today are done with these pills. And we're trying to get them off the market and make them, ban them, and don't let them kill any more babies.
The number of abortions has not significantly decreased since Roe v. Wade was overturned. So it exposed what we knew all along. This wasn't primarily a legal issue, it's a heart issue. We have to have a heart change. 60 million children, more than 60 million children have been sacrificed on the altars of comfort and convenience. That very much is a biblical issue. It is not a political issue. And the cowardice of the church on this issue over decades is one of the greatest stains on the American church in our history. It makes our attitude towards slavery, when we were accepting of that, seem paltry based on numbers of people involved. Not excusing one, I'm not trying to, but I'm telling you, we have to have a voice on this. And we have hidden for too long. So thank you for what you're doing. You spent your professional life leading young men and women, but overwhelmingly young men. So I would love to borrow a bit of that experience. If you had a message for fathers that have sons still at home, what would you say to them today? There's a lot of voices competing for how they should think and what they should do and how they should help shape those young lives. What would you say to those fathers?
What I would say to you is, first of all, set the example. Set the example for your son. He's got to know what a man is supposed to do, and I've got to tell you, in our society today, I know it's no surprise to you, but men don't even know what men are supposed to do in many ways, because they have been beaten down. They've been told that they're no different from a woman, and that's simply not true. And it's not just their plumbing. I mean, the men come out of the womb meant to be warriors. Warriors. You understand what I'm saying? Warriors. Men come out of the womb meant to be warriors. But they're, in many cases, they are conditioned to be just the opposite from that. But I would say, men, set the example for your son. Let them see you pray. Let them understand how important it is for your children to see you pray. And look, you're going to make, at times, bad judgments. You're going to make, I will say, mistakes, but be careful when you talk to somebody about a mistake. When some guy says, well, yes, I slept with this woman, even though I'm married, and it was a big mistake. No, it was not a big mistake. It was a choice. It was a choice. Don't let them off the hook, because the next thing they'll say is, and everybody makes mistakes, but everybody doesn't make the choices that you've made. And I would say to men that spend time with your son. Spend time with your son. I used to take my sons up on the Appalachian Trail, and we would walk for days up there. And there was a time, you can't believe how just being with them in a setting where there's no distractions really bonds you with your son. And they've got to see you pray. They got to know you're living your faith, and you need to spend time with them. And that's one of the things that you can't get back. If you don't spend time with them, you're not going to get that time back.
You know, you don't have to look far to see that our economy is in real turmoil. Our nation is $37 trillion in debt. Inflation rates have made it hard to buy and sell a house, even a car. We're all feeling it. When you go to the grocery store and you spend an extra $1 or $2 on every item, that gets personal in a hurry. Well, the most important thing we can do during uncertain times is to invest ourselves in knowing God better. Read His Word, pray. That's the only place we're really going to find stability we need for the disruption that I'm pretty certain is ahead of us. You know, beyond that, it's just plain wise to make the best decisions possible in our daily lives with our investments. When you think of all the options out there, gold is an investment that has stood the test of time. That's why I work with Preserve Gold. They've treated me with honesty, integrity, kindness every step of the way. They're offering a free wealth protection kit, and all you need to do is text ALLEN, that's ALLEN, to 50505. As a bonus, you'll get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. Go ahead and text them today. I would agree 100% with what he said, but don't think of it in terms of special events, the twice a year you go hike the Appalachian Trail or whatever. Once a week at the kitchen table with your family, let your sons see that you value that family enough that you'll change your schedule and expect them to change their schedule, and that no knuckle-headed set of coaches are going to take that away from you. Whatever that takes, once a week as a family at a table, this is doable. It'll take the whole family to make it happen, and the first few times it'll make you sore, like working out when you haven't been lazy for a season, but it's worth the discomfort to get to a better place.
Let me just add one thing to that, and I should have said this. The other thing which is very, very important is let your sons see how you treat their mother. If you want them to be a good husband as well as a good father, let them see you treat their mother with honor, and it will have an impact on them. My sons now, and I was conscious of that, and I tried to do that. I would never walk through a door before my wife. I would always open the doors for her. Those small things that people think are antiquated now are still valuable if you're trying to set the stage for your son to be a good husband and father.
You gave the strength of your youth to defending and serving this country, which hasn't been a particularly chic thing to do for a while. And I think, in the diminishment of our attitude towards the military is connected, in my mind at least, to the diminishment of the respect we have for law enforcement and for first responders. You can speak to this from experience. Do you regret it? Has it been a good thing for you? What would you say to the young men that are looking at their futures and the families that are looking for the futures? You see, parents, we have to value those things for our kids to value them, but do you think you made a mistake? Should you have been a Marine?
I deliberately didn't say anything about Marines. I can't believe he did that. I'm going to tell you something now. You opened the door. You know what the mascot of the Army is? What is it? It's a mule. Watch the Army-Navy game. It's a mule. Well, the Marine Corps is part of the Navy, right? So when the founding fathers were developing the plan, the Army got the mule and the Navy got the Marine Corps. Now, why? Why is that? Because the Army had first choice.
I got it. The first time the general came here, we were downstairs and we got on the elevator, and a couple of the men got on, and they were all military. Now, I didn't grow up in the military. I didn't serve, so I don't understand a lot of things. And I didn't understand there might be a little banter between. And it was the general and two Marines. Marines never retire. I apologize. And we got on the elevator and that door closed and they started in on one another. And all I could think was, God, if you'll get me off this elevator, I'll never do anything this foolish again. But I asked
Larry
about
brought that up when he picked me up at the airport the other day. And he said, the pastor thought we were really going after each other. He just doesn't understand that. But no, I don't think. If I had it to do over again, I'd go back in the military. I'd go back into the U.S. Army, and I'd spend another 36 years. I don't regret it. And let me say this to you. I've talked to a lot of people that have said, well, I wish I'd stayed in, or I wish I had been in the Army or been in the military. I've never heard anybody say, I regret the time that I spent in the military. You will never regret it. And let me tell you, if you got a son or a daughter, either one, that aren't sure what they want to do with their lives, there's a good way to get them on the right track. And we're getting back to being a real army. We're getting back to having a focus. We are now focusing on getting ready to win the nation's wars. And Douglas MacArthur stood in the West Point Mess Hall. That's the dining facility. In 1962, and he looked down at the cadets there and he said, your mission remains fixed, determined, inviolable. It is to win the nation's wars. That has not changed. But when we got into this cycle of all this woke nonsense, there was no focus on winning wars. That mission has not changed. But when we were more concerned about somebody knowing the proper pronouns than being able to hit the target downrange, that was not preparing for war. And if we had been called up then, it could have been an ugly situation. But now, as soon as we had a new president, the recruiting went off the scale. It went off the scale. And we have to recognize that that's what our military is for. So I have no regrets whatsoever. And trust me when I tell you, my body is so beat up right now from that. I've been shot once. I've been hit with a mortar once. I've had a parachute fail. And I, believe it or not, I went through this. Can I tell this? You know what free fall parachuting is? It's different than static line. The static line, the plane pulls you, and you're only 1,200 feet up. But when you go into a free fall, you go up very high. I've been as high as, and over in Europe, I've been as high as 24,000 feet. And we jump out, and you fly for a little ways till you get stable, and then you pull, and then you just fly the canopy. So I had never had any training when I started doing that. I mean, that was kind of stupid, but. And I told the people last night, I have a fear of heights. I honestly have a fear of heights. That's no joke. So I said to the guys one day, I said, hey, I can do that. I'm watching you. I'm watching what you do. I can do that. Take me up. I want to do that. And they took me up, and this was one of these. It was a CIA airplane, and you had to climb out on the strut. Climb out on the strut. And so I climb out on that strut, and it dawns on me, what are you doing? And I thought, Lord, if you will get me through this, I'll never be this stupid again. And I jumped, but so I did 3 jumps with no training. And then on the 4th jump, I got out, and my parachute malfunctioned. The automatic opening device opened at the same time I pulled my canopy, and the two of them just kind of ate each other like this. It's the worst entanglement you can have. And I'm sailing through the air knowing that I'm going to be killed. And I just said, Lord, don't let me die. And the Holy Spirit said to me, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And I went into the trees, some 80-foot pine trees, and one of those pine trees snagged. And I went all the way to the end of the ropes, and I hit my knee on a stump, and I got up and walked away from it. And God will never leave you nor forsake you.
Have you ever said that Christmas is too secular and you're tired of it? Well, we've got a solution, or at least something that can help. We've written a book. It's called How to Lead with Your Faith at Christmas. It's 25 days of devotionals that you can read. You can share them with family, your friends, coworkers. Then there's some ideas, even recipes, activities. It's a starter kit for bringing your faith to bear this Christmas season. Don't stand on the sidelines and complain. Let's lead with our faith this Christmas season. Let's honor the Lord and see the blessings that He brings to all of our lives.
Christmas comes quickly, and it's easy to let the season slip by without focusing on what matters most. Pastor Allen's new book, Lead with Faith at Christmas, is a 25-day Advent devotional that will help you bring Jesus more fully into the season. Inside, you'll find scriptures, devotionals, prayers, recipes, and practical things you can do to make the holidays more meaningful. It also makes a fantastic gift. It's time to stop repeating the same stale traditions and get ready to put your faith into action in new ways this Christmas. Request your copy when you donate $30 or more today at allenjackson.com.
You know, obviously the Lord blessed you, spared your life, gave you some remarkable success. But I also know you had to overcome some things. I mean, disappointments, every mission didn't work out the way you wanted, right. Heartbreak, because sometimes when we tell our God stories, it's like we skip from mountain to mountain. Yeah. And my journey doesn't always feel that way, and I know yours hasn't. You're one of the, that's a miracle with your parachute, but you're one of the few survivors of a .50 caliber round.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not a bullet, that's like a little missile you launch out of a gun.
I got shot coming in on a target in Grenada back in 1983. We were coming up onto a prison called Richmond Hill Prison, and we were going to hit the prison and get the political prisoners out of there and put them back in the offices where they had been appointed or elected. And we came up on a target, and as we started settling in with Blackhawks, first time we'd ever had Blackhawks, and we started coming in, and all of a sudden the skies erupted. And I'm telling you, the red tracers and green tracers and all I could hear them hitting in the rotor wing, in the rotor blades. And I knew there was a good chance that somebody was going to get hit. Well, and you know, we're firing back at them. You know, we're doing all we can to knock these guns down. They had these .50 caliber anti-aircraft guns, and I'm trying to whack them, and they're trying to whack me, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, and I knew I'd been hit, and I got hit. It came right up, knocked a big chunk out of my side, but it went up into my armpit. I was bleeding profusely, and I said, well, go around. Let's go around. And I'm sitting there rocking back and forth. I said, go around, do it again. And my sergeant major reached over and took my morphine and hit me right in the leg, and all of a sudden I was saying, come on, get on the ground. We're going to kill them, you know. Let me tell you, that was the most euphoric feeling I've ever had. And when I speak to people in prison, I say the difference between me and you is I made one decision and you made another one. When I got that, I said, I will never let anybody put that in my body again because it's so euphoric. I know I could get addicted to this. And you made the different decision. But I was bleeding bad, and they took me and dropped me off on a little Navy ship there, which had a little iPad. iPad. It had a helipad, and I could hear them talking as they were saying, we've got a casualty that is expectant. That means they expect me to die, which means get in there as quickly as possible. So I'm bleeding really bad, and they can't stop the blood because it was in my armpit and, of course, in my side. And they couldn't stop it. So all of a sudden I hear this, I'm semi-conscious, and I hear this helicopter coming in, and it was a Marine Corps. I'm Army. This was a Marine Corps helicopter that came in, a CH-53. It came in, landed on a deck, and they start walking me out on a stretcher. They got me on a stretcher. And I'm saying, Lord, have you abandoned me? Have you abandoned me, God? And I was serious. Lord, where are you? Have you abandoned me? Do you not care anymore? And as I was walking out, I looked and through my bleary eyes, and the pilot was hanging out the window giving me a thumbs up. And my eyes wouldn't focus. And at first I didn't understand what was going on. And finally, my eyes cleared and I looked up, and the guy flying that helicopter was a guy I grew up with. He was a Marine, and I was in the Army. He had no idea who he was going to pick up. And only 3 weeks before, we had our families together on vacation. A wonderful Christian man. And I just said, Lord, I know you hadn't abandoned me. And the Lord was saying to me, not only did I not abandon you, I sent your brother to get you.
Isn't that the time you had a bit of a debate with the surgeon?
Yeah, I woke up, when I got back to Fort Bragg, they operated on me on a carrier, put me on a carrier and operated, and then they took me back to Fort Bragg and right into the surgery there. And when I came out of surgery, it was, and I got to be careful on this because I woke up in the recovery room. Is that right? Is that the way? Okay. I said delivery room one time. So I woke up in the recovery room, and this team of doctors said, "Sir, you have a very serious injury." And I thought, and do you think I don't know that? And they wanted to take my arm off. They wanted to take my arm. And I said, no, you just do the best you can, because I have been talking to God, and he told me, if I will trust him, he will heal me. And there's the arm they wanted to take off. And for you golfers, this arm is about 1/4 of an inch shorter than the other one. It will clear your slice up better than anything else that I know of.
There's some orthopedic surgeon putting a new advertisement out tomorrow that's listening to this. Well, I thought of you with the Israeli hostages because I know you were involved in the rescue attempt for our hostages that were in Iran, and I read where it was one of the more disappointing. But it's a part of the story. I mean, the Lord blessed your life and has established you, but everything didn't work the way you wanted it, because that day didn't. And I've heard you tell some of those takeaways. I mean, I've been celebrating all week those Israeli men and women that walked out. It seemed impossible to me, but you went to get our hostages in Iran.
You're talking about Iran. Yeah. In 1980, we went into Iran to rescue 52 Americans that were being held by followers of the Ayatollah Khomeini. And we got about 100 miles from Tehran, and we landed in C-130s, and we brought in RH-53 helicopters off the USS Nimitz and tucked them in behind the C-130s, and we pulled the hoses out and started refueling the helicopters so we could go in on to the next leg into the embassy and get our hostages. And all of a sudden, one of the helicopters lifted off in the sand. This was right out in the middle of the desert, and the sand just blew up, and it was, the pilot couldn't see. He went vertigo. He lost his equilibrium, and he came back and landed right on top of the of the C-130, and it burst into flames. I was outside. I was about, really, probably from here to that screen from it, and when it exploded, I turned and I felt the heat, and I had no idea what happened. I thought they had fired mortars or something at us, and I looked back and I realized that 45 of the Delta Force men that had prayed before we launched were stuck inside that burning wreckage, and I didn't know what to do. So I did what I always do. Since I couldn't call my mother, I just started praying. I reached out to my source. I prayed a 10-second prayer. I said, Father, these men trusted you. I'm asking you to bring them out alive. Lord, spare them. In Jesus' name, I'm in. 10-second prayer. No. The Sadducees and the Pharisees, they prayed these long, elaborate, prayers. But they weren't praying to God. They were praying to the people around them. And I will tell you that I get very suspect of people that pray these long prayers and start quoting scripture and all that. You think God doesn't know what the scripture says? Think about it. But I guess it was one of those turning points in your life where you realize just how fragile life is. And you realize that at any moment it could end. And for me, it made me much more aware, because those 45 men jumped out of that out of that aircraft. The troop door came open, and here they come, jumping through the flames, out onto the desert floor and running. It was like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when old Nebuchadnezzar put them in that fiery furnace. And then Nebuchadnezzar jumped up and ran over there, and he said, yo, dudes, come here and check this out. That's the way they talked back then. Didn't we throw 3? I see a 4th, and looks like the Son of God. I can assure you, there was a 4th walking around in that burning wreckage that night. He will never leave us nor forsake us.
Almost everybody I know wants to feel better, have more energy. Myself included. I went to a concert a few months ago. It's been almost a year ago now, and I sat down next to a friend. Jordan Rubin was there. I made an offhand comment. I need to feel better, get a little healthier. He showed up in my office a couple days later with a plan for me. Part of it was a diet. My diet was centered on Oreos. He had some different ideas. But a part of what he brought to me was this multi-collagen protein. It's been a part of my routine for months now, and it's made a difference. More energy, I feel better, my joints feel better. It's real food from real food sources, helps us feel better. I recommend it to you. It's made a difference for me. I think it'll help you. Just go to ancientnutrition.com. You can put in code ALLEN30, that's ALLEN 30. You'll get a 30% discount, and it'll also bless our ministry. Again, that's ancientnutrition.com, Allen, ALLEN 30. You get a 30% discount on multi-collagen protein. You'll feel better, and you'll bless our ministry. Thanks. I read a quote of yours. I wonder if it's accurate. You had a teaching position for a season at a liberal arts college in Virginia.
Yeah.
Years ago, when the trans discussion was a little newer. And the quote I read was, the first man who goes into the restroom with my daughter won't have to worry about surgery.
I did say that. And let me just tell you, if there's a man that has the opportunity to stand against that kind of evil and he doesn't do it, shame on you. Shame on you. This is the college that I was teaching in is the 10th oldest college or university in America. It's called Hampden-Sydney College. And I was teaching leadership, and they put out this policy that they were going woke and that the men could go into the women's bathrooms there. And I did say that. I said it at a conference down in Florida. I said that, and somebody videoed me, and then they took it back and gave it to the president of the university or of the college, and they fired me. Well, what they didn't count on was Franklin Graham got a hold of it. Fox News got a hold of it. I was doing a lot of Fox News at the time. They got a hold of it, and other organizations and other people got a hold of it, and they started bombarding the college, and people started saying, we will never put another dollar into this college. And all of a sudden, 8 days after they fired me, because I said the first man that goes into the bathroom with my wife or my daughter is not going to need to worry about getting the surgery. And they fired me, but all of a sudden, 8 days later, I get off a plane in Denver, and my phone is blowing up. And I called my wife. I said, what's going on? I got all kinds of calls on my phone. What's going on? She said, call the president of the university. And I called him, and he said, this is what he said. He said, Jerry, what would I need to do to get you the promise to come back so that I can announce it today? Because they were losing money. They were hemorrhaging money, people who. So I said, Dennis, and I really did do that. When he fired me, I got up and shook his hand, and I said, well, I just want you to know the last 10 years has been a privilege to be able to be here as part of this. And I walked out of his office. Said, I'm going to take the high ground on this. Well, I said, Dennis, nothing has changed since what I told you when I left and walked out. I will come back if you want me to, but only for a year. And he said, okay. Well, in 15 minutes, they had a notice up that I had been rehired to the university. But look, this is another one of those, don't compromise what you believe. One of the things that I used to tell those young men that I was teaching, I taught leadership. I had the most oversubscribed class in all of that whole university or college, I guess it really is. You can't compromise on what you believe. And here's what I'd say to them. I'd get them around the fire the last night of class. We'd do it outdoors, and I'd get them around the fire, and I'd say, you need to know what your values are. You need to know what you believe in. You need to know what you're willing to sacrifice for, what you're willing to even die for, maybe. You need to know that, but you need to know why you believe it. It's not enough. It's not enough. If you don't know why you believe it, that's not enough. You've got to know why you believe it. And in our case, we believe it because it's in the Word of God. But we've got to know what we believe in. It's not just a matter of having a value. You need to know why you have that value. And I will tell you that there are a lot of people that don't know why they believe certain things, and that's like anti-Semitism. Why do you believe that the Jews are occupying territories that belong to the Arabs? Do you know anything about the history of that? Do you know that on the 29th of November, 1947, that the United Nations ceded that land to the Jews? You should be upset with the League of Nations, or now the United Nations, not with the Jews. This was bringing the Jews home. This was giving them a homeland. And they didn't go in there and conquer it and take it. Now, they defended it. And by the way, do you know the first guy that was promoted into the Haganah was an American? It was an American that went over there and helped to train the Jewish forces there because they knew that war was coming. His name was Mickey Marcus. He's a West Point graduate. And after the World War II, David Ben-Gurion called and asked if he could get Mickey Marcus to come over and train his people because they were going to wind up in a war. And Mickey Marcus went over there. And he trained them. And he stayed with them when the war started, and he fought with them. He led them. They made him a general. He was the first person to get promoted to general officer with them. He is the only man at West Point that is buried there that died fighting for another nation. That's the kind of devotion that we have to have. He was a Jew, but it doesn't matter. I consider myself a Jew. I'll just tell you that right now. I'm not. My bloodline doesn't say so, but my children are. My children are 1/4 Ashkenazi. We got to stand with Israel. And we got to know why we stand with Israel. And we stand with Israel because still today, they are God's chosen people. And I will tell you, in 1948, Israel became a nation. I was born in 1948. And my mother always believed that there was something special about the fact that she gave birth to a son in the same year the nation of Israel was recreated. Is this the biblical Israel? I don't think so. But I think it's pretty doggone close, and it won't take much for it to be. And I will take your counsel on that. We have to stand with Israel. We have to stand. It is not occupied territory. It was given to them by the United Nations. And people don't understand that. We got to stand with them.
General, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for joining me today. Before you go, please like the podcast and leave a comment so more people can hear about this topic too. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to Alan Jackson Ministries YouTube channel and follow the Culture and Christianity podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Together, let's learn how to lead with our faith and change our culture. I'll see you next time.